So what I'd like to do is introduce to you Robin Chase, who is the co-founder of ZipCar, which I know all of you use out here. But now she's working at a new company out of Paris called BuzzCar. And so Robin Chase, as the founder of BuzzCar, which is a service that brings together car owners and drivers in a car-sharing marketplace, something we're all familiar with. The company empowers individuals to take control of their not phones, but their mobility, it says, without looking to governments or big businesses for solutions. She's also, as you know, the founder and former CEO of ZipCar, the largest car-sharing company in the world, and I would say probably started the whole movement, and GoLoco, which is an online ride-sharing service. She's also on the board of the National Advisory Council for Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the U.S. Department of Commerce and the Intelligent Transportation System Programs Advisory Committee for the U.S. Department of Transportation. You should tweet at her, at @RMChase, which you can totally read right there. It's in your program. So without further ado, I'd like to bring onto the stage Robin Chase.
Hi. It was great to hear Katerina, and you'll be struck as you listen to me how the similarity, which means what we're saying is true because we both agree with the same things. So I want to talk to you about my enormous passion for ZipCar and transportation, and I'm going to, my purpose here is to take you through the early history of ZipCar. So back in its very first year, how did we raise money? How did we pitch? How did we hire? So this was taken actually in the second year, and I love this photo because we were a small company of maybe 10 or 11 people, and we looked really cool and big there, didn't we? Like the real thing. And I think I was in the car in the back leaning out the window taking these photos. So I do a lot of talking to entrepreneurs, and I feel when I launched ZipCar, it was immediately at the pinnacle of post.com boom. Like my first presentation was I was on Wall Street, and that was the day when the NASDAQ crashed. So I never raised a dime in the boom, but I was with a lot of people who had business ideas that I want to say sucked. And this really spoke to me when I saw this, is that there was this idea, wow, money's really easy, and I have this great idea. And I launched ZipCar, and I want to say there was a group of 10 of us that kept showing up at events like this. We kept going around, and we'd bump into each other. And by the end of the year, I was the last woman standing, because a lot of them had really crummy business ideas. So one of the things I'm probably not going to talk a lot about today, so I'm just going to tell you in one sentence, intellectual honesty. Pay attention to what's happening in real life. I know we're always on a big pitch to raise money, to get employees to work for free, to sell our products. Everything is great, yeah. Really know what the reality is and pay attention. And so as Katerina said, first idea didn't work, and they had to come up with plan B. So pay attention to your idea. So I'm going to just walk through. I just wanted to, so now it's getting to be old. I didn't have gray hairs then. And so in September of '99, I have a co-founder, and she's German. She had been on vacation in Berlin. She was sitting in a cafe, and she saw a shared car across the street. And what's really interesting, I want you to realize, is ZipCar didn't invent car sharing. It had been going on for like 15 years in Europe in a kind of co-op, low-tech, Birkenstock kind of way. And we had this idea she told me the idea at the cafe, and I joke, and it is true, that the light bulb went on over my head, and I said, oh my gosh, this is what the internet was made for, sharing a scarce resource among a lot of people. This is what wireless data transmission is all about. Everyone was talking about wireless. It turned out that ZipCar's box was consumer wireless application number 2 after cell phones, and we had to build the whole thing ourselves. And this is something that I personally really, really want, because I'm an urban dweller. I have one car. We have a family of 5. That car sits at an office park all the time, and I want a tiny fraction of a car sometimes. So the whole thing really did hit me, and I thought, wow, fabulous. We shook hands across the table. There we are, September. So then for the next 3 months, I spent a lot of time doing research and writing a business plan by myself. And I remember over Thanksgiving dinner, I was talking to my father-in-law. here's here's what the business plan looks like. What do you think of the spreadsheet? Because that was his. I went to Sloan, so I do have a business background. But he was my one angel investor prospect. So there he was at that table. And in December was the unveiling. I made an appointment with the man who was the dean of MIT Business School, Sloan, and I wanted to talk to him because he was in marketing. His field was automotive industry marketing. So Ansha, my co-founder, and I went to this meeting at Sloan. It was the first unveiling, first outsider I was talking to, and he had the little 3-page, executive summary, and we sat down, and he said, "Robin, this is an amazing idea. You had to go much faster, much farther, scale this way up." And we left this meeting, and we went down to the Au Bon Pain downstairs from Sloan, and we were just, I was shaken. I thought, wow, so now I really have to step up. My kids were 6, 9, and 12. So for 3 days, I mulled it over, and my oldest daughter, who's 12, and I've got to speed this up because this is just a side story. My oldest daughter, who's 12, said, "Mom, what's up? You've been mulling around the house." And I said, "I have to decide whether I'm going to be a fabulous parent or whether I'm going to go after this, and it means I'm not going to be spending a lot of time with you guys, and I'm going to be really, really busy and do this all the time." And she looked at me and said, "So would you be able to make money off of this and save children?" Because we had just talked about UNICEF and $200 saved a life. And I said, "Yeah, it could be." And she said, "Absolutely do it." So there we go. It's true. And so in January, we incorporated, and I had, in Q&A, you can ask me about how we came up with the ZipCar name. So we incorporated in January, and I went to Sloan, and the very first one, we had a very small class of 200 people, and the first millionaire was a woman. One of 36 out of 200 was a woman. It was like, yo. So she was a friend of mine. There's only 36 of us, so I had her over for dinner. And I am honestly telling you the truth. I was having her over for dinner to say, "What's it like to start up? What do you have to do? Do you have any tips?" And so it was truly asking her this, how do you do it? And over dessert, she leaned over to her husband and said, "Honey, what do you say we give Robin $50,000 as startup?" It was like, whoa! So part of what I want to tell you, and you'll hear this again and again in my tale, is you never know where your money's going to come from. And so there's this 2 sides. I'm an incredibly honest person, a ridiculously honest person, but you have to know that every single person you're talking to has got a little back door to someone else who's going to be giving you money. So know your 3 best advisors. And when I talked about drinking, being honest, you've really got to keep it, most of it, in your head, that honesty, because you have no idea where this money is going to come from. And so my first 50,000 raised there. And an important point for all of you guys is all this first money was raised thanks to Gene Hammond, who told me to do this, on a bridge note that was convertible to a Series A. So there's a whole bunch of money that we raised, as I'll discuss, and there was no talking about valuation. Valuation is like the giant drag on raising money. So in the very, very beginning, we did these bridge notes. They had a 20% discount rate onto whatever the Series A was going to be, and here was person number 1. So we went along, and we went along. It was me working around the clock, and my co-founder dealing with different parts, and she had a full-time job and another kid. And here's the amazing part. We put a beta car on the street in 4 months with $50,000, all in. So I had this one car, and I'd spent my entire $50,000 on getting the website up, the database behind, being able to make a reservation on a car with a schedule online. And here's the amusing part, is that the key was hidden on my back porch. The key to beta car number 1 was hidden under the pillow on the back porch couch. And there was the one car and the 22 drivers, and they would come to the back porch, lift up the pillow, get the key, and take the car. But they could reserve it online. And so now I've been talking to everyone, and I want to say the networking, my other little metaphor is I felt like a mole underground, and you're trying to go up, but you're not quite clear which way up is because you're way underground. And so you're like going, and you go there, dead end, and you talk to that person, you go this way, and it's this constant stretching up. So when you look back, you see there was a path, but going forward, it's like this. So networking, talking, building the company step by step, had their better car. We were going to launch in the middle of June. I had lots of promises out, and then the first car was on my house. It was backed on my house, and I did as an individual, but paying leasing monthly. When I went to get the 3 next cars for the launch, so we'd had 4 cars to start, the leasing company said, oh, and by the way, I need $7,000 down payment per car. I thought a lease meant that I paid $300 a month. No, so I needed $21,000, and here we are, May, middle of June, and I was 3 days from launch, which I couldn't get the cars for, because I had $68 left of the $50,000. And so, how did I get the next money? I was at Salesforce.com's opening cocktail party, because I was doing all of the startup things, and there was this guy that I had done one formal pitch, a couple formal pitches, and this was an angel investor who had been friendly, and he said, hey, Robin, how's it going? What do you need? And I said, you know what? I need $25,000 by tomorrow morning. And he said, okay. And he wired it by the tomorrow morning. We got the 3 cars and opened 3 days later. So looking at this timeline, and I hadn't appreciated this, Harvard Business School did a case on ZipCar, and it wasn't until we did the case, which is one of their most popular cases ever and mandatory for every first-year student. We launched the company on $75,000, and I'm not an engineer. So sorry, you guys, I feel like now it's like this handicap that can't you write your own code yourself? I'm not an engineer, and so we did this. And as I said, there was a lot of fake stuff going on. So with this first car, we had a proximity card like you use, a little proximity box, the first 4 cars, for the first 6 months, and we gave everybody a card. If you had that company's card and you put it on the windshield, it would open the car door. That was anybody. And the keys were attached to, they first were hidden in the glove box, and then people would put the key in their pocket and leave, and that was really painful, so then we tethered it from the steering column. And my staff were horrified because, are you kidding me, that anybody could see the keys dangling and they could break into the car and they could start the car and go. It's true, we had 4 cars. So, and then we built up to 35 cars. Like, honestly, who was going to be knowing and seeing and thinking that? So it never happened. It was a risk I took, very calculated. And as I say, anybody could open that car at any time, but they thought, because it was the black box, they thought that only the right person at the right time at the right car could get in. And I got this phone call. One of my first members said, Robin, I was walking on Beacon Hill. It was at 11 o'clock at night. Or they called me up and said, Robin, don't charge us anything. Don't charge me anything because someone had left the lights on and I used my card to unlock the door and turn off the lights. So don't charge me for that. And I thought, like I would know. So it was this beautiful black box. So there's this thing I want to communicate is that you want to start your company with the absolute minimum, even more minimum than you believe to get customers using your product or to get stuff. So we launched on the $75,000, the most slimmest little shell. You could reserve online and go get the key under the pillow, and you could reserve online and open any car. So just the minimum. So over the course of that summer, we went along, and I raised another, whatever it says there, $500,000 on a note. And so who was I getting money from? It was, this first beat was some angel investors, friends. So again, to these stories, a friend, there's so many things to say in so little time. The very first car was a lime green Beetle, and the lime green Beetle was, Volkswagen had just relaunched the Beetle. And so that meant there were none on the streets except for my ZipCar was one of 10 in Boston going around. And I put a logo on the passenger side door and on the back, just as you see today. And I want you to think back to that time. We were the first car rental company ever to do that. And I said, I'm going to make you feel really proud. You're going to love this company. You're going to feel cool and great to belong to this. And I cleverly put it on the passenger door where the driver never sees it. Lincoln. And when this beta car was driving around, I got a call from the Associated Press. And the Associated Press said, hi, and I'm answering the phone because there's actually like 3 of us, and so it's always hello. And so she says, hi, I'm calling from the Associated Press. I saw one of your cars. And I thought, which one might that have been? I want to do a story on you. So they did a story on us, and that story went viral. And the story launched 3 days after we launched. So it was like the timing was incredible. And that story went around the world. And when that story went around the world, including NPR, because they're all, the press is like little followers, so they all follow. So another classmate of mine was driving down the road in Kentucky, and he heard my voice on the radio, and he sent me another $50,000. So I'm telling you, you have no idea where it's going to come from. So it's just out of the blue. So we went along, and meantime, I'm now raising I'm raising the A round, and so I have to put a valuation on it, and so things are happening. And we raised the A in November, and it was 1.3 million, but by that time, I'd already spent 500,000. So I had 700,000 left, and it all converted. But this was how it went. Just to give you the little finally going, just to finish the funding part. In September 11th, September 1st, 2001, I will remind you when that was. We launched in Washington, D.C. Then I did a $2 million bridge note, again without evaluation, because it was a bridge, and I raised it in like 5 weeks. And let me tell you, raising money without evaluation is fast. Then I launched in New York City in February, did a bunch of universities, and then in December of 2008, we did a B for $4 million. So let me just tell you quickly about my first big pitch, because this was important. My first big pitch was in that April timeframe, and I worked so hard. I had my 8 minutes pitch, my 2 minutes Q&A. First time I'd ever done it, and I practiced. I had a little timer. I was really prepared. I did the whole thing. The entire 2 minutes of the Q&A was asking me, who puts fuel in the tank? What is the blah, blah, blah? And what I learned is every single time I described ZipCar for the next 10 years, if I didn't tell people who put fuel in the tank, their little brain kept thinking, and they could never get past it. So the purpose of my story here is every single person, your mom who asked the dumb question, you say, Mom, what a dumb question. Your mom represents 20% of the population. No, answer that question. So every single person is your free consultant, and don't miss those opportunities. So they really are representative. So your pitch is being honed incessantly. And this woman who gave me my first 50,000 had told me, Robin, write down people's questions when you're talking to angels. And I think, are you kidding me? Like, you're actually expecting me to write down their questions so I don't forget? I didn't write down the questions. I encourage you to write them down. But truly, every person you talk to is your free advisor, your free consultant. And it's not they who are dumb. It's you who are misexplaining, missing the point, should have known that. Get on with the program. So that was that. And real life elevator pitch number 2. This was a great story. After 1 year of being CEO at ZipCar, a year and a half, I was invited to this 500 women CEOs all level thing that Goldman Sachs put on. And there was me after a year and a half doing ZipCar. And it was on like the 36th floor in New York. And we were going down to the 5th floor for, lunch or something. And I'm not kidding, I got in the elevator at the 36th floor, and who was in the elevator with me but the female CEO of Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And she said, Robin, so what do you do? It was like the most hysterical thing. I had my floors, go. And so elevator pitches works. So just some lessons to make sure that I had I've got other points, but around fundraising. So I'm to this day dumbfounded that I launched ZipCar and $75,000. I couldn't repeat it again, did it in this 6 months. It was a miracle, and I think it's because I was clueless, and I was passionate, and I didn't know how hard it was. And I feel like you can be like the horse, with the little blinkers, and I could get my 3 problems, and all those 10,000 that are waiting when I solve the one, another one comes in. So you can only handle so many problems, and had I known then what I know now, I probably couldn't have done it, but I did. 75,000, you can do it too. So money comes from unexpected places, listener all feedback. So luck happens. Just the piece I didn't say about the car part is luck does happen. That was really lucky that an AP reporter saw that car. But it was where preparation meets opportunity. I had chosen a car that I knew was going to be a billboard riding around. So I had been cleverly thinking about how am I going to be getting this. And the lucky thing happened. So I was prepared when the person knocked because I had been thoughtful. So, and I want to say bad luck happens. And when bad luck happens and something horrible happens, like I had a lot of friends who were signing on their Series B on September 11th, and their companies went bankrupt because it didn't happen. Bad luck happens too. So just you can't always beat yourself up. So I want to move on to the next point, focus in technology development. So I explained to you a little bit how we did what was the absolute minimum, and then we iterated fast. And I want to, I gave a talk at a conference on failures. And one of my first failures, actually I won't say first, one of the bigger failures was in our minds, we really had conceived, what you see of ZipCar today is by clever astuteness is 95% of what we built in those first months, the business model, the whole piece. But one thing that I had thought in mind was that I was going to have a device in the cars where people would put in a PIN number, how is the quality of the car, do you want to extend a reservation? And this is back in 2000, when the Wave back machine, 25% of the population had cell phones, 75% did not. 50% had internet access and at work. And we were a company that was built on reserving online. And you'd be in these cars without a cell phone. And so I had thought I had to have a device in the car. So in that summertime where I told you how I'd raised money, we had 2 or 3 iterations of spending $15,000 and then another $7,000 on this in-vehicle device and the prototype we had in the car. And what happened within 3 weeks was it was a fiasco. It would be in the light, the LED, you couldn't see the LED, people would think it was broken, it didn't work, the order of the things didn't work, like, it was just costing this huge amount of money. And so I decided, we're cutting that, forget it. If you need to make a phone call, you can go find one. 90% of the time, you're not going to need that. And so the simplicity of ZipCar's technology that you see today was decided in that summer, and it was not my first vision. But I realized it was too hard. It was going to take me a huge amount of money to get over this UI problem. And so simplicity is always better. And that was a big mental decision, because we'd been imagining that for so long, that we're going to have this beautiful thing. And we fast, quickly, so iterate fast and get it. Remember and remind yourself, you're going to be getting your money. And I want to tell you that I think of getting money is like giving blood through the skin. Like, it's possible, and it is incredibly painful. It takes a long time. So you've got those little precious drops. So be really, really clear about what it is that you have to accomplish with X number of dollars. And people are constantly giving you ideas. And I remember people say, well, ZipCar, you guys should have this feature and that feature and this great thing. I think, yeah, but first I have to do this particular thing. So stay very, very focused. And what I knew I had to prove was that people can. So that 1.3 million, what was I proving? I was proving that people can reserve and rent cars without a warm body next to them, like every car rental country in the world. So that I don't have to have anyone walking around. You can get to the car, open it, drive it, return it. It's not a problem. And I wasn't spending huge sums of money on marketing. I just had to get this proof point out. So we were a technology company, and you really have to stay focused. I talked about intellectual honesty. Staffing. So remember, as you guys know, you have no money. You're going to be calling in all your best favors. You are selling. It's going to be so much fun. And I persuaded all these people it was going to be fun, and it was fun. But so I paid all the staff that we ended up hiring and that ended up working for 4 years. They were all either working for free. The technology, he ate the whole first $50,000, and the second $25,000, he got some equity. But everyone was paid hourly, and they were paid hourly at these low rates. And what was fabulous was that we could try before we buy. And so we could have these hourly consultants, and then some of them turn out to be fabulous, and then they go full time, and then you hire them. So this was really good. As Katerina said, diversity and expertise, so critical. So you start your company, year one, the entire experience base right here. You hire person number 2 or co-founder number 2. Now their life's work, now you have 2 life's experiences that are making this company. And you know resumes when you're like 22 and at the bottom it says hobbies, once was a whatever wacky hobbies, stereo repair and was a pizza delivery guy. Every one of those little tiny lines is so, so, so important because now you've doubled your expertise set or you've got 1/4 of your expertise set. And it turns out that it does matter that this guy once did that thing and knows someone who did whatever it is. So what I think of entrepreneurs, and what Katerina was saying was just making me laugh, is that are you a person who sees something and you say, I can buy that or I can make that? And I think entrepreneurs are the ones who say, I can make that. And if you're thinking that I can buy that, well, God bless you and you need a lot more money. So this initial staff are going to be the people that help you make all that stuff. And then as your company grows, remember, you were the big guy who knew every single thing, and then suddenly now there's 2 of you, and then there's 4 of you, and you have to stop thinking, I'm the guy who knows everything, and I'm the one who did everything. And so as you move along, your position needs to transition because you've got to hire people whose values you share and who you respect. And that is so, I can't say that's number one. You've got to trust their judgment and let them do the thing. And that's how you can grow a company and not be a jerk and have a company that works. So remember that. And self-awareness, again, around intellectual honesty. I think we all want to think that we're the founder that should be the CEO forever and ever, but really pay attention. Is that your skill set? Are you hiring to match your failures? Be really as honest as you can. My co-founder at one point told me, I guess this is in the ZipCar case, so I didn't hire her when we got financed, and she was very, very pissed off. And across the table, she told me, she said, Robin, you've ruined my life because I was going to retire doing ZipCar. And I thought, wow, we have such different expectations. This company is 6 months of operations, and every day I'm thinking I could be fired, and I'm paying so much attention to, am I doing a good job, and what does my board think? And you're thinking that you're retiring here 65. So pay really close attention to what you're adding, and are you doing the right thing? So ZipCar today, I'm just thinking about what we want to say since I'm running out of time. It has fabulous environmental benefits. I'm incredibly proud of it. 700,000 people are now sharing 9,000 cars. It went public in April. And just because Katerina was, I'm going to too. We have really lovely stories, and really it was the stories that kept me going. This is a couple who, he proposed to her with a ZipCar in that he put an apple tree in the back of the car, took it to a beach. At the beach, he took out the little apple seedling and said, will you share my life with me and our love will grow like the apple tree? She said yes. Here's their marriage. They sent a picture to me. Another picture which I find stunning since I have 3 kids. This is the firstborn child leaving the hospital in the ZipCar. And I'm thinking, that's when you say, honey, let's take a photo and mail it to ZipCar? Yeah, take a photo and mail it to ZipCar. And I want to leave you with the thing that inspires me in the companies that I've done subsequently and the company that I'm building to date, and is my motivating piece. So I'm going to show you an email that came into info@zipcar.com, i.e. the big slush bucket in the sky, apropos of nothing. This email is totally uncropped except for the name. And so here's the entire email. So I encourage you to build companies that people write love notes to. And that, for me, is what I want to build. I want to build companies that work into people's lives so much that they adore them and love them, and they're really integral parts. And I'll take questions, and there's my Twitter, and so I'm doing BuzzCar, which is peer-to-peer car sharing in France. and we will be launching sometime in America, in a country, city near you, not near you at all. And so, thank you, and any questions?
I love how the hands just shot up for the questions. Okay, so this was the first hand that I saw right here.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of money that came in? Were they loans? Were they partial ownership? What did that look like?
All the money was equity. So that the first $525,000 was bridge notes with a discount of 20% to the Series A. Series A was 1.3 million for about 25% of the company. And here's a thing that was a big kick upside the head. And so you're thinking that you own everything, you and your co-founder, and you're owning 50-50, and you're thinking that you own 50-50. Then we raised 1.3 million, and suddenly I went from 50% to 22% because they persuaded the 1.3 million Series A was for 25%, and they persuaded me because I had really poor counsel to put 25% into the employee option pool. So in one snap, I went from 50% to 25%, which is a lot less. So pay attention to that, how much you put in your employee option pool. And
we have one over there on the right. You're right.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. You are hilarious, by the way. My name is Jenny Huey. I'm with a company called Henka. We are a women's apparel company with a big e-commerce retail management component on the back end. And very similar to your story, it was a company that was started off by a couple of $1,000s in the founder's house, and has since grown into something that's really big. We've got about 15 staff working on the company. So the question for you is, we're at a point right now where we're internally debating all the time, do we remain clueless and keep going as we're going because of the success that we've had, or do we go out and get the big funding that'll allow us to scale and really try to attack the market or build it and they will come kind of mentality? So I'm curious if I can just get your thoughts on that.
That's a really great question, and I give a lot of talks to entrepreneurs, and I talk at a lot of business schools, and I feel like there's this idea that as an entrepreneur, your greatest success is to have Sequoia or Kleiner Perkins invest in your company. No, your biggest success is to have customers that like you and grow. And I was talking to this Indian woman entrepreneur who has there's an Indian entrepreneur, I think her company is called like Rose Industries or something, and it's a $2 billion company privately held by herself. That's better. So you really have to look at what it is that you're needing to do. And so for ZipCar, I knew that I wanted this to be a global brand and that it was going to be technology based, and I did not have the millions of dollars I needed to do to invest that. So that was the vision. I had to raise the capital to do it. That's what I had to do. If you can get away with bootstrapping, absolutely, do not. I used to work in public health, and there was this great metaphor that a cavity is a down payment on a root canal. Your first $50,000 is a down payment to losing your company. So every single piece of money, you're losing power and equity, unless, of course, you're lucky enough to be Google or Facebook. And I look at Facebook and I think, how did he manage to pull that off? So that's an unusual story. And so think long and hard. Who's your competition? Do you really have to? But if you can bootstrap something, way better, because you stay in control. You make all your own decisions.
We have 2 more questions, and this arm shot up so fast, so we'll take it.
Were you still able to be an excellent mom?
I'm so glad you asked me that question. So I went to Wellesley, and I went to a fancy business school, and I was really ambitious. And then I had blasted child number 1, and then blasted child number 2, and blasted child number 3. And I thought, my life is ruined. It was a big trick. No one told me that I can't be the ambitious person that I want to be when I have these children. And so I was pissed off for a while. And I know that some people can go to work at 8 a.m. and come back at 9 p.m. and have the nanny all day. And they also produce lovely children. I personally couldn't do that. And so I was irritated for a number of years. And then I founded ZipCar when my 3 children were required by law to be in school many hours a day. And so then, just to finish this, so as I was launching ZipCar that summer, my husband, who turns out to become ZipCar's CTO, and was ZipCar's CTO for 7 years, and all that technology you see and the whole magic of using it is thanks to him. He saw this was a fabulous thing, so he had his full-time job, and he quit his full-time job, and he became primary parent, and I became 1950s dad who would come home from work at 9 p.m. and say, honey, hush, hush, you children, where's my slippers and my pipe? So truly, so for 3 years, I was exactly the 1950s dad. I was, and he was the primary caretaker. He worked ZipCar got such a deal. We paid him half time, and he worked during the school day. He'd pick up all the kids, be the dad, be the parent in charge, and then when they went to sleep, I'd get another 5 hours out of him, free, at night. So my children, but from a life perspective, my children saw fabulous things. They saw me being a primary caretaker, and then they saw their father being a primary caretaker. And my children today are 18, 21, and 24, and they are fabulous. And they have a huge amount of admiration for me and my husband. And the thing that I want to caution you, that I had to caution myself, and I told my children, is don't be impressed with me. Like, that's useless. When I was a stay-at-home mom, I'm the same person you're seeing here. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was a lovely, fabulous person doing great things. So do not get caught in the trap that I was when I was pissed off. And I was thinking, my mom thinks less of me because I'm a stay-at-home mom. No, I'm the same person. So don't raise your daughters that way, and don't think that you are less of a person for doing those things. You've got a long life, hopefully, and here I am, and I think, how amazing. I came out the other side, and now I have both sides. Last question, I think. Sorry.
Yes.
Can you share your views about how experience or inexperience helped you in launching ZipCar? And how you kind of closed the loops if you had any experience gaps?
So when Harvard Business School did the case, so we worked in the case, and then it's taught on the first day, and everyone's doing the case. And so I went to the school the first day, and Myra Hart, who wrote the case with me, it was one of those blackboards that said, would you invest in Robin? And then over here, I wouldn't invest in Robin. And then the 99 students are all there describing, and the list for I would not invest in Robin was like this long list coming down. And the list I would invest in Robin was like 4 items. And what was shocking to me as I was looking at this 2.5 years after I had launched ZipCar, I was so struck by the fact that in Robin's head, when Robin was raising money, I thought, why would you not invest in me and in this thing? It's been happening in Europe forever. Fleet management, sure, I barely can drive, and I know nothing about cars, but fleet management in cars is a dime a dozen. Universities have them, local police stations have them. Like, I don't have to be expert in that. And I thought, and if you look at me and my investors, my former boss invested in me, my colleagues, my classmates invested in me. Every job I've ever had, I've been the beloved number 2 who's always been tracked. And so I thought in my head, why would you not invest in me? And then I was hearing, she's never done it before, she's never been a CEO before, she hasn't done a startup before, she knows nothing about cars. So, to answer your question, and I feel like each one of you is individuals. So know what you're good at, and be paying attention, do what you're good at, and try as hard as you can, and if you're not the right person, recognize that and hire the person adjacent to you. So some of you are going to be the exact right person to be CEO of your company, and some of you are not, and some of you might have great ideas and some of you don't. So really be paying attention. Just one last piece is of these startup guys, my very first pitch that I was telling you that I had my 10 minutes, afterwards we all sat at a dinner table. The guy next to me, so this is spring of 2000, he said, oh man, you know, I just got $3 million and I haven't figured out what the business model is or what the point of the company is. And this is so great. And I was just thinking, like, how does that happen? So that guy, fast forward 3 years, he'd been a high-paid lawyer, and his company was doing this startup lawyer thing. So fast forward 5 years, he had lost his wife, company had failed, and he was now doing this sole practice out in Waltham. So I just want you to go from Boston, Massachusetts to Waltham, which is not a good transition. And so this is why I come back to this intellectual honesty. Pay attention. If you've made the wrong marriage, get out fast before you ruin the rest of your life. And so I can't tell you, have confidence in yourself, and have confidence in yourself in the right areas, and be alert to if it's not the right area. So some of you, through passion and through hitting things right, will be exactly right. And when you're not, get a great partner. Thanks.
Thank you.